We welcome you to Wallace Wade Stadium here in Durham. This is the final spring game on ACC Network for 2024 and the first blue and white game under the leadership of brand new Duke head football coach Manny Diaz. The Blue Devils, of course, who a year ago were 8-5, went 4-4 in the ACC. They welcome Manny Diaz as their new coach, and he's put the Blue Devils through a 14 practice pace. And with Mark Herslick, West Durham, we welcome you upstairs. Taylor McGregor joins us here in just a moment. Like most schools, there's spring storylines here in Durham, but these are very interesting because this job that Manny Diaz has taken is a lot different than the one that Mike Elko took 2 years ago. Elko went to Texas A&M, of course, to replace Jimbo Fisher not long after the regular season ended. And then the transition started. Riley Leonard jumped in the transfer portal, and within about 10 to 12 days, he was headed to Notre Dame. But Nina King, Duke's athletic director, moved quickly. Manny Diaz, after 2 years as the defensive coordinator at Penn State, brought in as the new Blue Devil head coach. And then Texas quarterback Maalik Murphy transferred here to Durham as well. And Mark, it's interesting because that 2-year window of Mike Elko, Duke was very successful, and it leaves Manny Diaz now with some momentum for his job.
Yeah, and some momentum, right, that you try not to have squashed by the transfer of Riley Leonard, right? And so what do? What has every ACC school seemingly done? Go out and get a quarterback that can come in and be your starter right away. So Maalik Murphy, big guy, strong arm, played at Texas, 2 starts at Texas. He had a win there as well, 2 wins, and he's a guy that's coming in. How well he will adapt to this offense is to be determined.
Yep.
But he's the guy who comes in and is going to push for that starting spot. But unlike a lot of schools, there is a real competition here. Grayson Loftis, the true freshman quarterback last year, played arguably as good as any true freshman quarterback. He came in when Riley Leonard got hurt, and this game against UNC, only his second start, he had ice in his veins and drove them down to a fourth quarter tying score and then into overtime against Drake May, probably the best quarterback in the ACC last year.
Well, and now all of a sudden Manny Diaz has got a quarterback battle and some other things as he joins Taylor McGregor.
Yeah, thanks so much. We have to start with the quarterback conversation. You've been evaluating your guys all spring. How will you evaluate them in the context of this game here today?
Well, do they make the event more than what it is? You know, is this just another practice? Do they take their progression from what they've done all week and carry it out today? And how does that translate to how well they move the team down the field? Or do they try to do too much because they're trying to impress the cameras and whatever? Just if they, we tell all of our guys, just trust your fastball, be you, and that'll be enough.
This is the first chance for fans to see what Duke football will be like under you. What do you hope they take away from today? Excitement
on both sides of the ball. You know, an offense that likes to attack, push the ball down the field. A defense is born to attack, you know, creating negative plays. Those two things sometimes will be on display clashing against each other today. I'm excited to see what happens.
You're a defensive-minded guy. What can we expect out of the defense?
Hopefully making things hard on the offense. You know, tight coverage, getting around the quarterback. You know, obviously we're going to be smart, probably vanilla today. But even despite that, you know, see guys, can we cover, can we win one-on-one situations down the field?
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Wes?
All right, Taylor, thanks very much. I think a lot of us are interested to see Manny Diaz's return to the head coaching position, Mark, here at a program that, as we said, had 2 really successful years with Mike Elko. He did a nice job at Miami, went 16-9 against the conference in his 3 seasons there at Coral Gables. And we're going to see the Blue Devils in a scrimmage atmosphere coming up toward the bottom of the hour. And when we come back, Duke is ringing the bell here at Wallace Wade Stadium in the spring. That's part of their momentum in the program that already exists that Coach Diaz has. And we'll see the Blue Devils ring the bell next. That's a PR, boys.
Well, in order to be successful in the game of football, you have to find success within the context of the weight room, which is why we bring in David Feely, Director of Football Sports Performance. You've been a vital part of getting these guys ready to play, and you have something special here at Duke called Ring the Bell. So explain to me what it is and how it started.
So it started when we were at Temple, and to get some juice going. It's a boxing city. It's a tough city. You know, if you ever watch Rocky, like, you know, it's pretty cool. And what we wanted to do is create an event for every person that was going to go try and perform their personal best, right? It's not about you, it's about the success of your teammates. So if they ring that bell, everything stops in the entire room. Everybody crowds around to watch you perform your lift, and once you get it done, you celebrate it as a team. It's pretty cool.
What was the initial response when you started implementing this within the weight room?
Oh, it was an immediate, oh yeah, like they understood exactly what the concept was, and they hit the ground running with it.
How important do you view what you do in relation to how successful this team can be on the field?
You know, we're a direct line to the head football coach and his vision, so anytime Coach Diaz feels that something's important to develop in the person, or the physicality of the person, like we're an extension of him, and we get to carry that message out every day.
All right, this might be something that I'm looking forward to the most. So are you ready to ring the bell?
I think so.
I think we're ready to ring the bell. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. And then that'll be it. See, they all whip their heads around. They're starting to look at me like it's go time.
I think it's go time, Wes.
Mark, the minute we started talking about this yesterday, you had a look in your eyes like, oh, I'm in.
Oh, I got jacked up. You know, it brings you right back, right? Because like you remember those moments like where the guy is doing that, right? He's gonna get in that squat rack and he's gonna put up the most weight. And you get jacked up for him. And you know, I think it's a personal way of showing, hey, look, I'm here for the team. And how cool is it with the bell? I didn't know the backstory with the Philly pride of the boxing country, but it's good. Now they're doing one-on-ones. This is the most competitive one-on-one drill you can get, besides maybe O-line, D-line pass rush.
And we're looking at an area here in particular where, look, we saw Mackay Wall, a redshirt sophomore, number 11 at wide receiver. And we're also going to be able to get a look at quarterbacks here.
I know. Yep. Going from the slot here, and good physicality by the defensive back, and that's what one-on-one's all about. And you get a lot of the chatter, right? What you think about football and you think about the smack talk that happens, not a lot of it is coming from the linebackers and quarterbacks. It's all from the wide receivers and the defensive backs and the D-ends and the offensive tackles, because they go one-on-one every play.
And so now Maalik Murphy's going to step in the one-on-one. And you get a look at Vance Bulliard. He's a redshirt freshman at tight end and makes a terrific catch in the corner against Leon Griffin III. Pretty good throw by Murphy, by the way.
Yeah, this one-on-one drill, it's a lot less about the quarterback throw and a lot more about getting separation from the defensive back if you're an offensive player, and then especially getting your hands on. And this is going to be a Duke defense that is going to be much more man-to-man. And right now it looks like, unfortunately,
Jaden Moore just went down.
That's not good.
And so they're going to move the drill. And that is Jaden Moore, who is the younger brother of Jordan Moore, who many people remember was one of Duke's top receivers a year ago. And so,
but to get back to that point, the point of man coverage, and you're seeing a lot of it in these one-on-ones, but they brought in a new defensive coordinator, Jonathan Patke, and obviously Manny Diaz is a defensive head coach. And talking to them, they're going to get away from a lot of the spot drop zone defense, which Duke really was very good at playing last year, and get more into tight man match zone type coverages. And so this is a drill that they've been repping a lot during this spring, because they're going to find out which of their receivers can create separation and get open for these quarterbacks.
Sean Moore is was the wide receiver there, Sean Brown rather, and he was being defended. And there's a throw and catch, and that's James Hobson. Or no, I'm sorry. I want to go back here. We've got a handful of numbers here that we're working through.
P. Jones.
Yep. That is Jones.
Peyton Jones.
Yep.
Running back.
Peyton Jones, a running back. We've got two number 10s on offense. So one is Jones and one is Hobson. And there's a ball thrown for Spencer Jones. And he's been one of the guys that has shined a little bit through these spring practices here in Durham.
So you're seeing a lot of these inside fades. Right there, great throw by Grayson Loftis, just right over the top. Getting it to his wide receiver, Jontavius Robertson. And this is kind of, you look at red zone routes, and this inside fade route has been something that's become really popular over the last 5 years because you can try to get a little bit of a mismatch with your slot quick wide receiver against a nickel back or a linebacker. Good throw by Loftis getting it in there.
And another completion for Loftis a moment ago, and now Maalik Murphy will step back in. And you hear coaches talk about every throw being scored, right? Every throw being charted, every drill being charted. Certainly that's the case here. So off that, let's go downstairs. Taylor standing by with the Blue Devils' new offensive coordinator, Jonathan Brewer.
Yeah, he's engaged right here, having a lot of fun. It seems like everybody wants to know about the quarterbacks right now. Can you talk about Maalik Murphy and what you've seen out of him so far this spring?
Obviously, Maalik's got incredible arm talent. He's a true pro. He's came in here. He's bought into what we do and how we play the style play. And so he's bought into what we do. It's been great.
Grayson Loftis, I can tell he's incredibly vocal down here. How would you describe his impact on the team in his relatively young college football career?
True leader. If you go to our winter workouts, he's the guy that's, no matter what's happening to his team, he's always lifting his guys up. You can tell the guys that have actually played in games, he can react to bad things, right? He doesn't let things get to him. Good ball, air, yes sir, baby!
That's a heck of a catch by Higgins, by the way.
Do you always have this much energy?
Yeah, well, our guys have good success, right? So here we go. Let me finish it.
Nice job, Taylor. Way to go. Way to keep him in there, huh?
I know, clearly.
Yeah.
I wish I had this much energy. Well,
this is Jordan Moore now against Chandler Rivers. Those are one-on-ones, legit one-on-ones, Mark.
Yeah, that's good on good. It's your best receiver versus your best cover guy. And, there's some
push-ups?
Yeah, well, looks like the offense lost.
There you go.
There must have been some sort of competition. There's always competitions, right? And especially spring ball, we're going to get scoring. That's defense can score in this one.
All right,
Offense
Taylor,
can score.
What's the story on the push-ups?
Yeah, Coach, we need to know the story on the push-ups.
The push-ups, I got to do punishment the same with the offense. When they lose, I lose. When they win, we win. So that's how it works.
How important is situational type football to practice throughout spring ball?
Oh, it's probably the most important because you see the best come out of our guys. You can see them react to adversity, right? And when the pressure's on, what do they do? When the bell rings, here's your moment in front of the whole team, and what do you actually do?
As far as the receiving core, what excites you about this group collectively going into next year?
Oh, experience. A lot of experience. A lot of guys can take the top off the ball. We have some guys that can run across the middle, catch the ball great. But the experience part, the guys that are mature, we're about to come at us right here.
This is an exercise. I love it.
Oh, you're great.
Coach, anybody who knows anything about your offense, you guys like to go really, really fast, score a lot of points. That's what we saw you do at SMU. How has it been installing that type of offense as far as guys just knowing what's happening on the field?
Well, I think it's a buy-in to hey, we're going to do same things over and over again and try to master a technique. It's the buy-in that there's no magic play. There's just magic execution. And so doing stuff over and over again and not being, don't be afraid to go out and fail. Don't be afraid to go out here and push the limits to what you can do in your success.
As far as the differences in quarterbacks and how that will impact your offense, how do you view that moving forward?
Well, I think it's one of the best things we've done as an offense is whoever our quarterback is, that's it. Hey, way to push through it. Way to push through it. The best thing we've done is we adapt to who our quarterback is and what he does. I think if you look at it totally as each quarterback's had his own individual things that he excels at and each individual plays that he likes and the way he sees football. And our job is to call plays towards that.
I love it. Thanks for the time, Coach.
You guys, appreciate it.
Wes, I'm fired up. I don't know about you.
And so's Herzlich up here. Jonathan Brewer, thanks very much. Appreciate it. We'll continue. Member scrimmage action coming up here from Wallace Wade Stadium. Duke Spring Game continues in a moment on ACC Network.
He's able to break a tackle and get the first down and more. Inside the 20, stiff arms an offender inside the 5 and into the end zone. Mouth again, fumbles the ball, and it's picked up by Stinson. Waters making a house call with the exclamation point on this one. It's turned into a blowout in Durham here in the fourth. It's one of the biggest wins in Duke football history.
Welcome back to Wallace Wade Stadium. We're at the 2024 Duke Spring Game and a look back at what a Labor Day night they'll never forget here. the win over Clemson. And Mark, they won their first 4 games. They were 4-5 in their last 9. The Riley Leonard injury certainly pronounced in the middle of the year. And yet, it was a team that, by the way, somehow got it back to a postseason game, won the bowl game with Trooper Taylor as the interim coach ahead of Manny Diaz taking the job. I mean, you know, there's tangible momentum, as we said at the top.
Yeah, and I think that it was done, right, in a way where they built the run game. They had an offensive line that returned a bunch of veterans and seniors and grad students, and then it did with their defensive front. I mean, you think about the guys that they had last year, the Aeneas Peebles and Dwayne Carter and R.J. Oben, and I think, a lot of that momentum, and especially for the Duke fans, the question mark is, okay, are we going to actually have that momentum? Because all those guys that we mentioned, like their entire starting offensive line from that Clemson game, like the entire starting defensive line from that Clemson game, they're gone and they moved on. And so now the foundation of the work has been built, right? And you get to look at right here some of these guys who are coming back. You get Jacquez Moore and Jordan Moore, right? The Moore, not brothers, but the Moore twins out there. And they were a massive piece of production, but they weren't the whole thing. And so they're going to have to kind of rebuild their identity. Ashley already talked about Jonathan Brewer's type of offense is going to be much more fast-paced than Duke's was last year. So a lot more air raid type offense.
Well, and Taylor, you're standing with one guy who I think personifies just the work mentality that Duke has. He was a great football player and needed a way to get on the field, and Jordan Moore found it at wide receiver last year. Yeah, and he's adjusting now to this new type of offense. What have your impressions been so far of what Coach Brewer's installing?
Yeah, our offense is really fun. A lot of vertical routes. It's really a change of pace. We're throwing the ball a lot more. That's all a receiver can ask for.
A lot of people talk about your transition from the quarterback position and how that could help you, especially with this fast-paced style of offense. How much do you lean on your past experience?
I mean, I lean a lot on it because, at quarterback, got to know all the coverages, everything, the ins and outs of the defense. So I use that to kind of help myself with the receiver position to know how to get open, when to get open, and kind of get the timing with our quarterbacks.
What has stood out to you about the different quarterbacks competing for the job this year?
I mean, they're all great quarterbacks. They all practice and study like it's a game. Every practice is a game, and they're all taking that next step, and they're developing, and it's good to see.
It's a good problem to have, depth at the quarterback position. Thanks for the time, Wes.
All right, Taylor, thanks. 122 catches, 13 touchdowns the last 2 years for Jordan Moore. And you see, 2021, 10 games at quarterback. Yep. Mike Elko comes in, says, hey, you're not going to win the job, Riley Leonard is, but we want you on the field. So that opening night against Temple, he starts playing in the slot and goes crazy. And he didn't miss a beat, Mark. Crazy.
Didn't miss a beat, and he started learning, right? He progressed. He learned what it meant to not just be a quarterback playing wide receiver. He is a true #1 wide receiver for this team, and he's going to have a splattering of quarterbacks to get him the ball.
Well, when we come back, we're going to look at a side of the ball that is going to be interesting. Offensive line and defensive line next. Well, we come back to Wallace Wade Stadium. We haven't gotten to the scrimmage yet, and we're seeing a lot of action, aren't we, Mark? Because sure now we're going to get into some O-line, D-line stuff here, and this is the part where Manny Diaz is playing really shorthanded with his offensive line right now, Hers.
He is, and this is also the drill that develops the leaders that they need, right? You talk about all spring ball, the competition that occurs, and when you look at the offensive line, as we get a little bit of a pancake there, we look at the offensive line, we mentioned just from last year, you talk about the starters at the beginning of the season, Scott Elliott, the transfer from Harvard at center, Jacob Monk at right guard, Jake Hornibrook, Maurice McIntyre, Graham Barton, who's going to be a first-round draft pick. All these guys are gone, right? So you do have some players who have played significant time. Brian Parker II, he's playing tackle at 53 for them, but they don't have their solid core. And honestly, for spring, they don't even have any depth because of injury. They've got only 5.
These are the 5.
That's them.
Yep. These are the 5 guys they've got. And you see Matt Craycraft is the center. Boggs and Doris are there as the left side. And then to the right side, you mentioned Hubbard and Parker. So that's the 5 that they have to work with here. Now, college football is a really interesting landscape now. Yeah. So there could be additions, there could be deletions. Everybody understands that. You've got some early enrollees here. You got guys that are coming in this summer. But the reality of it is Manny Diaz is going through this offensive line right now with just 5 active guys here today.
Yeah, and you look at the guys who are out, right, that are highlighted in blue, and that leaves the 5 leftovers. And you also see the experience, right?
Yep.
They're sophomore, freshman. So it's not like they have a guy who is like, okay, I've been here and I'm the anchor. They're having to develop that. And I think that the conversation with Manny Diaz was quite interesting about how he's kind of letting these leaders develop on their own, not forcing guys into the vocal leadership because, you know, as he said, and as you know, and I've seen, right, you can see through that in the locker room. You know a guy, and if he all of a sudden tries to start being a vocal leader and he's not that guy, then it feels fake. So Manny Diaz is trying to facilitate and foster some of the growth of this leadership in really a natural way.
Yeah, and you're seeing the Duke pressure. That's Ryan Smith, a grad student from Ackworth, Georgia, who had 24 tackles last year. Did have a couple sacks and an interception in 13 games played. But he's one of the guys, along with VJ Anthony, who are contributing here. Now that's Kenzie Paul there, who's involved in a pressure. He's a guy listed as a safety. But you're seeing this is also a little bit of an indicator of what Jonathan Patke's going to do defensively, because we've already seen 2 safeties step up on the edge, in addition to the guys who you would see normally in the front 7, if you will.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the things that this defense is going to be known for, right, if you know anything about Jonathan Patke and the way he has played defense from coming from Texas State, they are going to attack. It is a attack defense. And Manny Diaz, even in the open, right, when Taylor was interviewing him, he said, what is our defense going to be? Our defense is born to attack.
Yeah.
If that's not descriptive enough for you, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch, because the offense and the defense are both being geared in some of the similar platforms that Manny Diaz ran when he was the head coach at Miami, but there is some marginal differences here, particularly as it relates to personnel. Pretty good pressure there. And that was Samaj Turner, a redshirt freshman from Reagan High School in Winston-Salem. And this is David Anderson. He's a redshirt freshman from Hampton, Virginia. And that's the other thing we're seeing here. Last year with Mike Elko and his defensive administration, Mark, they got right to that 4 game, and guys got shut down. There was you saw 4 games, and that was it.
Yep, and what was last year's roster? Old. It was an old roster. You know, Dwayne Carter feel like he was here for 1,000 years. The whole O-line were grad students. Now this is a young team, right? And I think that Manny Diaz is a great coach to come into a young team. He's got that fire about him, and I think he's connecting really well with these players.
Well, let's check with Taylor on Jonathan Patke's temperature right now.
Yeah, let's check in with Coach right now. We know you want to be aggressive defensively. How much does a drill like this excite you?
Oh, it's awesome to see. What we're saying here is play on edges, right? We got to play on edges of O-linemen. We got to have great pass rushers. This is the secret sauce of our defense right here.
And how much does what you guys do on the defensive line impact to what you want to do behind them? A lot of man-to-man coverage I know we can expect from you guys.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand. If you're going to play tight coverage, to give our guys up front an opportunity to get to the quarterback.
When you guys took over this program, you lose a lot of vocal leaders, a lot of guys who had a lot of snaps a year ago defensively. How do you organically try to fill those roles?
Yeah, I think we're looking for our leadership. So we're looking for guys to step up in those roles, and it's a constant evaluation, including today. Get a guy in the stadium and see if he can be a leader.
What do you look for specifically in a game like this?
If they can execute at a high level and consistently. I just told the D tackles, what they asked me, what can I put on tape? And I said, have a great consistent day. Show every snap how much you learn in 15 practice.
Appreciate it, Coach. Wes, it's what we try to do as broadcasters too, right? Just find that consistency.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm up here having to keep 94 locked in.
I know.
I mean,
you just dialed into these one-on-ones.
You having flashbacks?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I think it's fun too, because I think that you naturally look at these one-on-one drills and you think, okay, well, let's look at depth, but none of that matters, right? It's all about one-on-one, right? It doesn't matter what year you are, right? Doesn't matter what, if you're first string, second string, like it's an opportunity to make your name known to the coaches. And anytime you get the bell ringing in one-on-ones, I'm all in.
Okay, you mentioned the guys who aren't here, and we're going to talk a little bit about this because rarely is it as pronounced on a specific team where you see it on one line and then like offensive and defensive line. Aeneas Peoples is at Virginia Tech. Dwayne Carter's draft eligible. Javion Franklin is draft eligible. R.J. Oben went to Notre Dame in the portal.
Yep.
But Wes Williams is a guy.
Yeah.
Aaron Hall's a guy. V.J. Anthony we just saw.
Yeah.
Ryan Smith we talked about. Trey Freeman had over 100 tackles, and he's a guy that I think you can look to, but he's a different kind of leader.
Yeah, he's a different leader, and he's not as vocal, but he's productive. And then Kennedy Charles is another guy to watch out for. Transferring from Liberty. They went out and got him because they love the way that same style of defense at Liberty plays vertical at the defensive line. So while they did lose a lot of guys, they have a lot of young potential coming up.
And where they've got big-time leadership is in the secondary. Rivers, Stinson, Moore, Pickett, all guys who made plays for the Blue Devils a season ago. When we come back, scrimmage time here at Wallace Wade Stadium. Blue and white when we continue on ACC Network. Well, we welcome you back to Wallace Wade Stadium. Blue and white, Duke spring game getting ready to commence, and now the quarterback competition will come into focus here. It'll be a 7-on-7 scenario. We already told you about kind of the lack of offensive linemen, so there'll be some point scoring. We'll share that with you in a moment. But this is where the Henry Beelan, by the way, injured, not going to participate today. Did post a win against NC State a year ago. Mark, this is where Maalik Murphy and Grayson Loftis, this will really come into sharp focus here.
Yeah, and again, we talked with the coaches, and Jonathan Brewer is not intending to make a decision after this game by any means. He said this quarterback competition really can go all the way until the first couple games of next season in the fall. And what he said, he goes, look, right now, and Henry Beelan being injured, we have two quarterbacks that can get ACC wins, right? And I think that is a confidence level of the offensive coordinator in his guys he has.
All right, my favorite part of spring, Herzlich, the rules. Because every school's got a different scoring system. Blue will be the offense, white will be the defense. Halves are 15 minutes. The defense has to have an ability to post scoring here. 6 for the turnover, 3 points for a fourth down stop. A 3 and out is 2 points. A sack is 1 point. And there will be no skill return here. This is just kicking. And you see Terry Moore, and he'll field the kick. And Duke has a fairly reliable field goal kicker in Todd Polino. This is Ryan Degansky, a sophomore from Sewanee, Georgia, who's a walk-on who just handled the kickoff. And here comes the offense. And it will be Grayson Loftis with the team here first.
That's Maalik Murphy.
Oh, it is Maalik Murphy. Yep, sure enough. So Maalik Murphy, and he'll have Jaquez Moore, the running back, with him. Hazley is the tight end. And we're looking at 3 receivers. So 11 personnel, kind of the staple of what Jonathan Brewer's offense is expected to be here.
Look how wide these receivers are out. Outside the numbers, a lot of vertical passing routes.
And Chandler Rivers defended that play on a ball intended down the near sideline for Jontavis Robinson.
Yeah, you see Maalik Murphy, he has that kind of what used to be prototypical size at quarterback, 6'5", 235 pounds. You see he was top ESPN 300 pocket passer coming out of high school.
That time looking for Higgins.
And we've seen this type of offense really be implemented for different types of quarterbacks, right? When Jonathan Brewer was at Miami and was coaching the quarterbacks there too, and it was, Tyler Van Dyke is more of that big pocket passer, and then De'Aaron King is more of a, pull it down and run guy, and Rhett Lashley, who Jonathan Brewer studied under, loves throwing the ball in that fast-paced offense. So you can do it with both, but there are very defined wrinkles that you'll get depending upon the quarterback that's in the game.
There's Jeremiah Hazley with the catch. He's a tight end that they've got some expectation for. Kendall Johnson was in the neighborhood covering from the linebacking spot there. Hazley, with Jake Taylor and Cade Anders unable to go today, Hazley had 5 catches, 52 yards, a touchdown last year against NC State. So Murphy hit a couple of passes. And now Duke will go through a punting scenario here. This is Cade Reynoldson from Australia. And out of bounds inside the 40, and now we'll get a look at another offensive-defensive set.
It's always a guess as to how they're going to do this, whether they send the ones back out,
right,
just going the other direction, or kind of how that works. But, you know, again, if there's the first series, a 3-and-out, good stop by the defense, rallying to the football, you know, a little bit of an underthrown pass. And then you saw Maalik Murphy just after that third down play thinking, didn't get it far enough downfield. And now, okay, so now you're switching to 7-on-7 where the linemen were in last series. Now we're going 7-on-7.
Yep. And here's the throw. And the catch is made. Nick Lampert, who only played in one ball game a year ago, makes the grab. And so Murphy picks up a completion in his first throw on the second possession.
This kind of switching between offensive linemen on the field and 7-on-7 has been something that they've just had to been doing throughout this spring because of their limited numbers. And we talked to Jonathan Brewer about it. He said, look, this is just not going to be a physical spring camp. We just can't have it be that. So if we can't be physical, let's hone in on the thing that we're going to do a lot anyways, right? If we're going to throw the ball a lot, let's get the timing right with the wide receivers. Let's get the drops right with the quarterbacks and have the ball delivered on time. And they've been repping this a ton this spring. So this is good first glimpse of that we get of how this timing has been working out.
Here's a 3rd down and 4 scenario. Murphy going to take a deep shot, and he's looking for Brown, who makes a catch. Did he keep his feet in bounds? And they are going to rule it a catch at the 18-yard line. Terrific throw, better catch from Sean Brown.
Hey, good ball by Maalik Murphy, and it's kind of that inside fade that we saw them working down in the red zone, but this time out in the field, see if that foot gets in. Does that left foot taps in, but good sideline throw, deep downfield in the corner route. Maalik Murphy shows off that strong arm.
Karan Boyd is in the backfield. Here's Murphy going to take a shot for the end zone and overthrows Lampert. That's Murphy's first miss in the possession. He's 3 for 4. And again, with the way the 7-on-7 sets up, we're going to kind of keep some rough sketches on this scrimmage from that light, because it'll be interesting to see kind of what the numbers are. It's a different scenario, obviously. There's no pass rush in some of these schemes and that kind of deal.
You're keeping the tally over there?
Unofficial.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's the official unofficial tally.
Yeah, it checks it all the way down, and this is Boyd, who we mentioned a moment ago. Former wide receiver, moved to a running back spot, had 6 carries for 16 yards a season ago for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, we talk about Jacquez Moore returning at that running back group. Obviously, Jordan Waters has left the team and transferred out, but they're trying to find, okay, how can we build a stable of backs that can do various different things? And they're going to get a lot of 5 out, meaning they're going to get the running back out in pass routes a lot with this type of offense. So Karan Boyd is one of those guys who's intriguing to this offensive staff because he has that receiver background and can line up in the slot or in the backfield.
So second drive ends with an incomplete ball thrown to the back line of the end zone. The defense has got a couple of points on the board now. We'll continue in a moment. Well, here comes the redshirt sophomore, true sophomore from Gaffney, South Carolina, Grayson Loftis, now into the scrimmage for Duke at the quarterback spot. And Mark told you at the top, 3-2 as a starter a year ago, threw for 189 yards and 3 touchdowns at Chapel Hill, 270 and 2 scores at Virginia, 2 more touchdowns at Pitt in the regular season finale, and then, of course, was a bowl game winner as well. So plenty of experience a year ago, and a first down throw here on the perimeter. And, boy, the Blue Devils get it going there, and that is Jordan Moore. No surprise they get it in the hands of number 8. So in his first possession, first attempt is complete, and it's another first down. Offensive line stays on the field here. So they do mark it up for a first down. That's Peyton Jones, the sophomore from Norfolk, who ran for 71 yards in 3 games a season ago.
You notice the tempo here, Wes.
Yeah.
Right, they're going a little faster. That's this SMU type offense where Jonathan Brewer came from is known for their speed. They're implementing it a little bit right here.
Yep. So a 2-by-2 look, and Taylor, is this this is what he's talking about when he talks about getting to what they did in Dallas a year ago.
Yeah, and I think also when you talk about SMU, you have to be able to talk about varying tempos as well, and I think that's what you saw a little bit on the first drive. So they'll be able to do a little bit of everything. Yes, you can see them go at an electric pace, which we have seen in the early parts of this drive, but they can slow things down a little bit, and I think the more that everybody in this offense gets comfortable, you'll just see them pick up that pace.
Yeah, it was interesting, I thought, yesterday, guys, to listen to Jonathan Brewer talk about the varying quarterbacks that have been in this offensive system.
Yeah.
Tyler Van Dyke's name got mentioned.
Yep.
So did Jennings, who was
Kevin Jennings.
Tanner Mordecai.
Yep. Preston Stone. All these guys, and all of them are different, right? I think he kind of correlated maybe Grayson Loftis to more of a Tanner Mordecai, and if you're not a big SMU fan, right, all that means is that, like, I don't know if I'm expecting everybody
you better, they're coming in the league, you better become
you better study up on their former quarterback. But Tanner Mordecai, right, like, it's this kind of gunslinger Brett Favre, like, hey, I got this like short memory and I'm gonna try to fit the ball into these tight windows and take some chances, and you saw that really play out well for Grayson Loftis when he got his chance last year, and especially with a true freshman quarterback, you're getting thrown in against Wake Forest, right, an in-state rival, as your first game, and then the next week you go to UNC at night, and you guys were calling that game, and I think it's, it was telling. I was watching that game back, just kind of looking at what Grayson Loftis did, and even you and Tim Hasselbeck talking about, hey, it's just a true freshman. And then we got into the fourth quarter, and it was just Grayson Loftis has to do this, and Drake May has to do that. And it didn't matter what age he was. And, I think that shows some of that maturity, gunslinger nature that he brings in.
Well, here's a 5-wide look as Loftis starts his second possession, and he dials one in the center of the field that time, and that's Boyd, the running back. And Grayson Loftis, this is a competition, Taylor. That's the thing. I think a lot of people just assume Murphy would take this, and that's not the case at all.
He's certainly made it hard on them, and one of the things that I've seen down here on the sideline is that vocal leadership that you heard coaches talk about at the beginning of the broadcast. They talked to us a ton about it yesterday, even down here in a spring game. I mean, he's talking to his guys, telling them what's next. You just saw him in a little bit of a huddle prior to this drive, and so I think that's an aspect that they have to consider when they talk about this battle.
Yeah. Well, he's thrown 2 times here. The next one, this is Hobson, another catch.
He's really looked confident, just sitting there and throwing. I'd say, we've got such limited amount of viewing of these two, but so far in this practice, really Grayson Loftis has looked like he's more comfortable. He just seems like he's a little bit smoother in his drops and is delivering the ball at kind of a more confident pace.
Mekhi Wall you saw in motion. The ball was delivered. There's Boyd again, the running back. And we saw 2 snaps ago, they went 5 wide. They went 3 to the field and 2 to the boundary.
And they're using their running backs all over the place. And, again, they're playing a little bit against what they're seeing on defense. When you're getting man matchups with linebackers on running backs, you want to try to use that to your advantage.
Here's a quick throw and the near side catch, and that's Wall, who's listed at 5'9", a former state champ in the 110 hurdles.
This was more of a zone pressure look where you get the defensive end, Kevin O'Connor, dropping out in the flat, and they will mix in some of these zone pressures and man pressures. It's not like they're going to go straight man all the time, obviously, but this is a good drill for some of these DNs, too, to practice their drops without offensive line in there.
You see Bates has come in as one of the running backs, and he'll take the catch. Took a pretty quick shot. That's Carter Wyatt, a redshirt sophomore who did not play at all, but has had a really nice spring at the middle linebacking position. And that's an area they're looking. Trey Freeman obviously factors in as the will linebacker, but they're going to need a Mike guy, and they're focused around, some candidates here.
No, they definitely are, and when you look at what they have right now at that kind of true Mike position, it's Nick Morris Jr., number 36. He is probably, the coach said, he had the most solid spring out of all these guys, and he's smart player, 6'3", 230 pounds, a bigger backer, but he was productive. He had 12 tackles against Pitt last year. You got him, and then you got Luke Marigo, number 34, who we've seen in there as well. Yep. Another big guy who can run played more line of scrimmage in high school, and then Carter Wyatt, who you just saw on the coverage. And so they really feel like they have about 3 guys in most of the linebackers' spots to build some depth. Although, Jonathan Packey did say, I think we're about 1 player away at each spot.
Trey Freeman almost came up with it.
Who they said, by the way, they said he wasn't going to be playing.
We kind of got that Trey Freeman was not going to be involved in contact.
Oh, yes, good point. That's 7-on-7, no contact. I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Well, there he is. He doesn't need contact.
And no surprise, he's around the football, Mark.
Yep, good play. Got to pick it off, though, as a fellow linebacker. I'm getting on him in linebacker room.
Well, Herzig's going to go downstairs. He'll have a word with Trey Freeman. We'll take a break. Defense 8-0. Back after this. Don't forget, first round action of the ACC Women's Lacrosse Championship starts tomorrow here on ACC Network and the ESPN app at noon. 9-seed Louisville, 8-seed Virginia Tech. At 2, it's 10-seed Pitt, 7-seed Clemson. Duke will play Boston College Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Downstairs to Taylor McGregor.
Here with Grayson Loftis. What has it been like learning this new offense this spring?
Oh, yeah, it's been fun. Coach Brewer's done a great job of installing it piece by piece. He likes to say it's a process. We're going to get the foundation down right first. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
What is the biggest challenge for a quarterback in this system?
I think it's making sure we're operating fast. I think the tempo is something that's new to all of us. We weren't fast last year. This year, the tempo has been probably the hardest part to get used to. So I think just installing the foundation and getting used to it's been helping, yeah.
You guys have a lot of depth at the receiver position. It's been very obvious, even in the early parts of this spring game. How have you built relationships with all of those guys?
I think it's a day-by-day process. From the moment I got here last January to this point now, it's just been getting to know the guys on and off the field, in the weight room, out to dinner, whatever it may be. I think it's just a day-by-day learning the little things about guys.
Coach has complimented your confidence and your leadership abilities. Where do those 2 qualities come from?
Probably my parents. I grew up with my mom's a rock star. She's a teacher. So I've been in her classrooms, watched her command classrooms, and then my dad with the confidence. He always instilled the confidence in me that I can go out and I can compete with anybody and be on the field with anybody.
What were your first impressions of Manny Diaz when he took over this program?
Very intentional. I think the first thing he said was about being on time and how he was going to respect our time as long as we respected his. And so I think the biggest thing is intentionality, and then he's just genuine. Anything he says he's going to get done, it gets done. And if he can't get it done, he gives an honest answer.
And for you personally, to go through a quarterback battle, what is that like?
Oh, I think it's just a lot of fun. I think Maalik coming in, Maalik's been a great guy. We've actually become really good friends. So I think it's just a lot of fun. I think we're both getting better and making it tough on the coaches.
What is the biggest takeaway for you from a season ago, getting reps as the QB1?
I think it's just to get more comfortable. I think it was 5 games last year. So I think my biggest lesson learned was just to take it game by game and rep by rep and week by week and continue to learn the ins and outs of being the guy and trying to learn how to prepare the best way.
Thanks, Grayson. Thank you. Wes?
All right. Terrific visit, huh, Mark?
Oh, my gosh. So well-spoken. You forget the guy he's a true sophomore. He's probably, 19, 20, he's 20 years old, maybe?
He just hit me. He said, I came here last January.
Yeah.
So he's been here about, 16 months, 15 months. He's already won road games in the ACC.
No, and I think, that puts it into perspective a little bit, but there's also, right, he talked about his background and his mom being a teacher, right, and commanding a high school teacher?
Yeah.
Commanding a high school classroom, you learn how to do that from mom, and you can do that in the field, right?
Peyton Jones, the ball carrier. I want to go back to this last throw by Maalik Murphy here, because we see all the toolbox right here.
Hit that drop, makes a decision and go, right? And that's it. If he can hit his rhythm, if he can plant that back foot and launch it, like you saw that ball. That was a very well thrown ball. Now, I haven't seen that every time he's thrown it, right? So if they can get him there, they have time, right? You got all spring, summer, and all that stuff. But if he can get that, right, then you could be ready for 3,000 yards passing with this type of offense.
Well, and with the velocity to which it leaves his hand.
Yeah.
Here's Murphy in that time. Now, that might be a pressure. the linebacker up here wants that to be a Derek Brown Jr. sack for the freshman from Waxhaw, North Carolina. Chandler Rivers was in coverage. But we saw big 44 peel in here right from the middle.
Yeah, and you didn't get much.
Yeah.
Wasn't much in his way on that blitz, but good timing. And Derek Brown Jr., he's kind of that number 2 will position behind Trey Friedman. And being a true freshman, as you mentioned, coming here in January, he's a guy that's turned a lot of heads so far in workouts and then this spring ball.
There's Murphy throwing again. That is picked. He was looking for Jordan Moore. And they could throw a flag at the 26, so we'll see here. That may have been a throw on the house.
Yep, I think it was a free play.
Then we have our first penalty of the blue and white scrimmage.
Offside.
Ooh, they will announce
Defense, number 93. Penalties decline. Result of the play is a first down.
Will Seiler from Lovett in Atlanta, transferred in from Penn.
Go figure how any of that made sense. The penalty was declined and it first down. But we are now at 3rd down. So the joys of spring ball. The rules are there are no rules.
And so what do we got here?
The result of the play was an interception. The offside will be enforced 5 yards from the previous spot. Remains 3rd down.
Hey, you know what?
Spring ball for the crew too.
Hey, you know what? Just needed a little extra second to get it right, that's all.
Oh, man.
That guy's not amused.
No. When you look at Murphy here, the other thing to remember is he had 33 drives a year ago in Austin for Steve Sarkisian, of which there were 12 scores in those drives. 8 touchdowns, 4 field goals. But here's the other note. Not one turnover.
And that's a big note, right? I mean, you get about 33% rate on scoring, which is great, right? You think about possessions. You'd love to score that many possessions, but when you're not turning the ball over, that's also allowing your defense to do its job, right? And you're able to play field position games. I think that's one of the reasons why Grayson Loftis had success last year too, is he didn't turn the ball over very much either. Only 4 interceptions in those 5 games he played. And he was a guy that they were not scared to throw the ball in gotta-have-it situations, right? And anytime you have a new quarterback, whether it's Maalik Murphy transferring in or Grayson Loftis filling in for Riley Leonard, to have the confidence to be able to throw it when you need to, that's huge for a play caller.
Yeah. Ball, by the way, incomplete. Terry Moore might have held onto the jersey, but that went by the boards. Here's a little tunnel screen, and that's Jordan Moore on a 2nd down play. Offense still trying to get on the board here late in this first half, if you will. We're going to have a 2-minute warning, by the way, since they ratified it yesterday. We're just going to start playing by the new rule. So we will have a 2-minute warning coming up here at the end of this first half of the spring game.
Yep, and if the new head coaching job in college football wasn't difficult enough, let's bring in a 2-minute warning to just throw off all the plans. But
they ratified the 2-minute warning yesterday, Mark, and they also ratified player-to-coach communication.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I feel like is needed, right? The technology is there, and all it does is, I think it's going to create less paranoid coaches, right? I mean, college football coaches, that's a paranoid bunch. And if they think people are stealing their signals and all that stuff, then they get all tight. So now you're just going to be able to talk in the helmet. And
here's a throw to the end zone, and this is for Jordan Moore and just beyond his reach. So we're going to step aside. 2-minute warning. First half of the blue-white game continues. Well, we mentioned this a moment ago, the 2-minute warning, which we got here at the end of the first half of this scrimmage. The in-helmet communication, eerily similar to the NFL, coach to quarterback, coach to a designate on the defensive side, and then tablets on sidelines and at halftime. Give me your thoughts. What's your first reaction? You wore the earpiece in the NFL.
I think first reaction is just blending the game together with the NFL more, right? So the NFL viewer, it's going to be no different than what they usually see, right? But when you talk about the in-helmet communication, so they're in the NFL the way they do it, and I'm sure they'll do it same thing in college, where there's a green dot helmet, and one of those can be on the field at a time. So On defense, usually it's a middle linebacker or a safety. We'll have that green dot, and you can basically receive. You're on the receiving end of the communication from the coach. So you basically have a speaker with no microphone.
Right.
You're hearing the coach until about the 14-second mark in the play clock, and then it cuts off. So up until then, the coach can say whatever they want to that one person, and that person relays to the team. I think what's interesting, and it's developed in the NFL as well, where you're up at the line of scrimmage, and so often we see high school and college these days where they're up at the line of scrimmage right away. They clap, see the defense, and then they turn over to the sideline to see what the coach is going to signal in as the play adjustment. Well, now that can be done through the headset up until that 14-second mark. So you could get teams going no huddle, and Duke will be one of those teams that goes no huddle. They'll be at the line of scrimmage, and you can have Jonathan Brewer in the helmet of the quarterback saying, hey, that nickelback's coming off the edge. Look for this check. So I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll help speed up the game. As I said, coaches won't be as paranoid as maybe they were in the past. I think the tablets are cool too, right? The operation without tablets, when I first came into the NFL, they would print out 3 snapshots. Pictures, and you'd get 2 angles of the 3 clips, right? Now they're on the surface pads that you saw Tom Brady smash on the bench all the time, right? But they'll have those surface or tablets, whatever, so they can see those pictures right there. So no video or anything on that, but they'll have pictures of what the previous play was from the series.
Apollos Cook, by the way, was the intended receiver for Maalik Murphy. Todd Polino kicked the field goal, so the offense is on the board. Polino, by the way, won the field goal kicking job. He and Charlie Ham were coming out. They started last year in a pretty stiff competition. Polino took control of it. He made 13 of his last 14, including 6 straight to close the campaign a year ago. So pretty reliable spot there for Manny Diaz in his first year here at Duke. And you see the throw back in the center of the field from Murphy, and that's Cook again on the catch. And let's go downstairs, Taylor, with more as we watch Maalik Murphy take the offense here in the final 100 seconds.
Yeah, Coach Brewer has been asked a lot about this communication device and still saying they have to be able to do both things, because if it's under 15 seconds, they still need to be able to communicate differently. But I'm curious, Mark, from your perspective, with a fast-tempo offense, how different is maybe the communication versus a team that might not go with the same pace? You still think you'll see sideline signals to help with the receivers since only one guy gets the communication device?
Yeah, so a lot of times when you do that hurry up, right, you'll get the initial play call will be signaled to the wide receivers, or even told verbally to a wide receiver if they're close to that sideline. I think it's the adjustments, right? So they'll get the initial play call. I think it'll be really good for, this is filled with transfer quarterbacks who are first time in systems. That's what all of college football is. So, instead of having a wristband or 2 wristbands, one on each arm, to be like, oh, this is the play, they can call it through their heads and they can give extra details. I think that's the biggest thing, is that you're not just getting a hand signal to say the play. You're getting to the quarterback and say, hey, we're going to run this play, right? But make sure you remind the backside tackle to cut off the DN, right? Like, that can be expressed to these quarterbacks. And I think that's kind of the extra coaching points you can have on the field.
Taylor, to add to this, I am fascinated to see how it will affect game management too.
Yeah,
because I think teams who are unintentional and they're not known for going fast, I think teams now can add that gear in certain situations.
And I think it'll be interesting, the adjustment process, because there still will be a little bit of teams trying to figure it out, and maybe they learn some ways that they can do things, can't do things early on in the season. So I think that's certainly a story that we can follow. And then to the tablets and the being able to access some video, which you will in college football be able to see a little bit of video, which is different from the NFL, how maybe that can change some of the things that they can teach and install, and maybe the intricacies of an offense, how that will all come into play.
I think the piece we just saw here was fairly pedestrian. We got to 158 and took a timeout, Mark. But you mentioned something before we went on the air here today. The management of the 3 timeouts with the 2-minute warning now, I think that gets really interesting.
Yeah, it's different. And it's something that, again, with all the hats that head coaches in college football have to wear, it's just another one of those things where you either need to have a guy, right? Like,
Better have a guy.
You got to got a guy. You got to have a guy for that. To
better
say
have a clock guy, and you better have a timeout guy.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think that there's all things that'll be managed, and it'll be beneficial. And I love how it. I love the 2-minute warning in the NFL because it just sets you up. It says, okay, we're in crunch time, right? We need it now.
Let me tell you this. Lampert does not hold on to this at the back end. This is a terrific throw, Mark.
Great throw.
Oh, that's Eli Panko wearing number 4. I beg your pardon. We had him listed as 6. Thank you.
It's nice they got the names there to help us out. But no, you're right. Really good throw. Back to the end, and like those throws are what he's really, really good at. And we saw the underneath dig route earlier where he planted that foot and drove through the throw. And
here is Polino, by the way, from 53. Aiden Burr of Georgia Tech kicked an uncontested 62-yarder last week in Atlanta. And this is Polino from 53, and that is easily through. He kicked a 52-yarder against NC State last year. So really not that big a stretch for Todd Polino when you think about it in that light, but nonetheless, it adds 3 more to the offense.
And I think he kicked like a 48-yarder in overtime against UNC, right? Yep. Massive pressure.
Yep. So we get to the end of this first half. Todd Polino has kicked a couple field goals for the offense. Jonathan Packey's defense has put 11 points on the board in their scoring system. And we'll go the second half on ACC Network next. And Loftis will start the second half. And we showed you his numbers through a couple of drives and mentioned that Murphy had 4 drives, so Loftis will have the 3rd possession of his night here. You see he's got Jaquez Moore in the backfield with him, and this is a first down play with the offensive line intact and a tight end. And this is a quick throw to Jordan Moore on the perimeter. And you mentioned kind of what we're seeing at wide receiver. Eli Pancol is back. Remember, he got hurt in the preseason a year ago, missed all of last year. So you've got Samir Hagans, who had 30 catches a season ago. Eli Pancol, who's back in the fold after the injury. Jordan Moore caught 62 balls. A guy who we've not talked about here tonight, but is a speed guy, is Javon Harvey, who transferred here from Old Dominion.
Yeah, and I think that what they love about him is that speed showing up. Right, he has track speed, but it shows up on the field as well. And what ODU did with him and part of their offense, I mean, you talk about vertical stretching. I mean, they are going to run off corners, and they're going to take shots, and similar to what they want to do here at Duke. So, again, you've seen both on offense and defensive side as Grayson Loftis makes a great throw to Jeremiah Hasley, their tight end. They want to bring in guys that have been in similar type systems before, and to kind of give a leadership with just at least how to run the offense and defense.
A little tempo here employed by the offense. I'll hand it to Jaquez Moore, and that'll get a yard or 2. Well, when you talk about what Jonathan Brewer did at SMU a year ago and what Ricky Ronnie's team at Old Dominion does, Mark, you're talking about 2 of the fastest teams in the country last year in terms of tempo. That ball is offline, so it'll be 3rd down here in this possession for Loftis.
And the reason that those teams can go fast, right, there's the possibility of them slowing down, but they don't slow down when they are clicking, right? So when they're completing passes, they run up to the line of scrimmage on a deep ball, and they're going to run a running play, right? That's just the way that those offenses go. Now, if they're throwing incomplete passes or they're getting stopped for losses or they got penalties, then that just naturally slows them down. So being very clean operationally is going to be paramount for this team this season if they do want to implement that fast pace.
Here's the 3rd and long play, and back underneath, that's Bolyard, the tight end. By the way, Harvey was glad to see Taylor McGregor tonight here at Wallace Wade Stadium because he had a 3-catch, 166-yard game the last time he saw T-Mac on a sideline.
That must have been what it was.
Old Dominion and Virginia Tech, I think. No, Old Dominion Wake Forest last year. Yeah. 3 catches, 166. Taylor?
And talk about an up-tempo offense.
Yeah.
They as well ran a lot of plays and were very, very fast.
Yep. Crazy ball game that was in Norfolk. That's off the fingertips of Harvey, I believe. And incomplete. Yeah, it's amazing some of these programs we're seeing now, Mark, and the ability to go as fast. And Duke apparently wants to be, obviously with Jonathan Brewer coming here, near the top of that list too.
Yeah, and I think my feelings don't matter on it, but it does get gimmicky at times, right? If you don't do it well and you don't mix up the tempo, as Taylor was talking about, it can feel gimmicky, and then when it doesn't work, you're kind of SOL, right? But like when you are getting the tempo in and then you are pulling back and huddling every now and then, it can really throw off a defense and make them, make the mismatches come because the defensive personnel haven't adjusted correctly to the offensive personnel.
So we'll look at Loftis here now, going to work at the 49. By the way, the defense added a couple points there after that stop to push the lead to 14 points. And that was Spencer Jones on the back end of that catch. Redshirt freshman at 6'4", who played in a couple ball games a year ago. Wide receiver is one of the deeper spots on this football team for the Blue Devils. Long throw to the backside, and that's Makai Wall, who carried the ball 6 times last year, but now as a wide receiver, seems to be one of those guys that could burn you from the slot if you're not careful.
And he actually, Makai Wall, really his coming out party was the Wake Forest game, which was Grayson Loftis' first game starting, right? And Wall had no catches coming into that game, and he left about 3 in the fourth quarter. And he's a guy too that they say, hey, look, this guy can be a slot guy. He was a 100-meter hurdles guy in high school and state champ in that area, so he's got that athleticism and that speed to be a threat.
Another look at from ground level.
We're gonna whip that ball out.
Yeah, both these guys will put it on you.
They will.
Loftis was a terrific prep baseball player in Gaffney, South Carolina, in addition to his football prowess. Loop to the end zone. And Hobson could not hang on. Or no, Bates rather. 19, not 10.
Travis Bates.
Yep, the running back.
Yep. Cousin of Julius Peppers.
Yeah. Getting a gold jacket this August.
Yep. You saw the wheel route out of the backfield. Again, bunch of times we've seen running backs have vertical routes out of the backfield, trying to get mismatches on the linebackers.
Here's Loftis again, and that time beyond the reach of Wall.
And I think one of the things that's noticeable, right? We have so much talk about the quarterbacks, but you look at the scoring, right? The scoring is pretty normal for the offenses, and they are not scoring points. So, whether there's miscues like that last third down in the corner of the end zone, or the defense has stepped up and made plays, we haven't seen a lot of production or scoring from either offense, whether it's the one or the twos. And so, hats off to the defense. And a lot of times defenses, especially with new coordinators, are a little bit more advanced at this point in spring anyways.
28-yard try for Polino, middle of the field, and it's good. So Todd Polino's kicked 3 field goals. That's what the Duke offense has. We're in the second half of the blue-white game at Wallace Wade Stadium on ACC Network. Well, this is the final day of spring games in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and then, of course, you think there's a long time before you get to August the 30th, an opening night for Duke against Tony Trisciani and Elon Phoenix, and it'll be here before you know it. Then all of a sudden a road trip to Evanston, UConn, at Middle Tennessee State, and then 8 straight league games. And, oh, by the way, how about Carolina here on the final Saturday in September to start all that?
Yeah, and when you look at the beginning of the schedule and the fact that you have a quarterback competition going, you have some games in there where you can see live game action from these guys, right? So I wouldn't be surprised, and Jonathan Brewer even alluded to it, like this might not be done before the first game, right? It might go past that Elon game. It might go past the Northwestern game, and to try to let these players decide themselves who is going to be the quarterback. And I think that's what every coach would love to have happen. Every team would love to have that happen, is that one player can solidify himself through his play on the field that I am the guy, right? And that really lets the team buy in. And whether coach has to declare, hey, this is our starter, or that guy builds it, eventually, once you hit that UNC game and then the league games, you got to have your guy in place.
I want to follow up on that in a moment because I think you bring up a really good point. Let's go downstairs to Taylor's. Maalik Murphy starts the possession here.
Yeah, so Maalik Murphy is number 6, but on the back of his helmet, you'll see there's a 0 and a 6, and that 0 is in honor of his teammate, running back Marquise Collins, who suffered a right knee injury this spring and most likely out for fall as well. And so he wanted to honor his teammate, and he did so with that number on his helmet, guys.
Wow. That's pretty solid.
They must have been fast friends, right? You know.
Well, Marquise is from Bryan, Texas. Went to College Station High School.
Yep.
I'm going to hazard a guess he might have grown up an Aggie fan. Murphy comes in from Austin, Texas. We're crossing bridges already. Huh?
Hey, you know what? 2 people who lived in Texas at one point together maybe were friends.
Go, right?
There's a possibility.
Yeah.
But either way, right? You got a guy coming in, whether he knew him or not. I think it's a significant thing to do, to honor a teammate in that way.
He throws a rope to Harvey, and there's a sidearm shot back in the middle of the field to Sean Brown. I mean, these are 2 terrific throws by Maalik Murphy.
And you're starting to see, I think what you're starting to see is him feeling a little more comfortable, right? I think that, this is a spring game, but, it's kind of set up like a practice, but there's cameras on. The lights are on. You're in the stadium. And I think there's a little bit of pressure for anyone in that situation, especially when you're trying to prove that you deserve a job. And I think you start to settle in a little bit to the fact that, look, we're just at practice. Let me go out and play.
Yeah. By the way, the deep shot for Pancol was into double coverage in the end zone.
As I'm singing his praises.
Yeah. Second in the full 10, Chandler Rivers, who was terrific, was in coverage for the Blue Devils. The Duke defense, Jonathan Patkey's unit's got an 11-point lead. And there's a quick shot of Marquise Collins, redshirt freshman who played a game a year ago from Bryan, Texas, who Murphy is honoring with the 0 on his helmet. And Jaquez Moore has nothing there. Terrific play. Defensive front. That's Michael Reese, a grad student from Nashville, who a season ago had 10 tackles and 2 behind the line.
He's had a good day. Called his name a couple times. Saw him win some of those one-on-ones.
I just think there are enough guys here defensively, and I know some of the brands are gone, right? The Carters and the Peoples and the R.J. Obens. But, Mark, you and I saw enough of Duke to know they played with depth defensively last year.
Yeah, for sure. And also, too, those brands weren't brands until they built their brands. I mean,
right.
Before last year, you didn't really know who R.J. Oben was or Aeneas Peoples was. You knew more about Dwayne Carter because he's been here for a while and he's been a 3-time captain and all that stuff. But, right. You don't come to Duke with a profile, usually. Right? You don't come to Boston College or Wake Forest with the profile. You build it while you're there. And it's a perfect opportunity for a lot of these guys like a Wesley Williams, like a Michael Reese, like a V.J. Anthony, like a Ryan Smith to build their brand and, play phenomenal defense. That's a good strike right there.
Yeah, Robertson on the back end catch there. And I think that led us to the conversation, Taylor and Mark, in our meetings yesterday with Manny Diaz about the developmental side of not what he's going to do, but what has been done here the last couple of years that made this an attractive job for him.
Well, and not only what has been done, but also he talked very candidly.
What a catch.
That was nice.
Heck of a grab here. This is Jordan Moore, and that's Chandler Rivers on the bottom of the stack fighting him for the football. It is.
You don't think that's competition right there? Better ring that bell.
Wow. What a throw and what a catch by Moore, huh?
And there you go. That's the first touchdown we've seen of the day.
Stinson comes over to see if he still can't get it out of there.
We saw this matchup right in the one-on-ones where they rang the bell earlier in practice. And, how beneficial is it to both guys? Chandler Rivers and Jordan Moore, both phenomenal players in the ACC. They get to go against each other all the time in practice. And you see the competitive nature. Great job of high-pointing the football. They love that back shoulder throw.
Wow. Heck of a fight for the football. Touchdown, and now Polino's point. It's a 4-point lead for the defense. About 8 minutes to go in the second half of this blue-white scrimmage. Manny Diaz visits with Taylor McGregor when we continue from Wallace Wade Stadium on ACC Network. Well, day after he was hired as the new head football coach at Duke, Manny Diaz, I'll tell you what, you want the fastest way to the Blue Devil Hearts? You hit a free throw and you run up in the Cameron Crazies, hers. That's the way it works, isn't it?
Yep, and you get the baby crowd surfing. And Coach Diaz, we got a nice picture of you and Cameron indoor. Got to ask you, is that the first time you ever done crowd surfing with a baby in your hands?
Oh, can't hear us.
Out. It's going in and out.
Okay. We're losing the signal with Coach. We're going to see if we can square the house up here. All right. We'll get this.
I would guess to say that's probably the first time. That might be the first time.
I'm going to say first time.
Yeah, I think that was a fake baby, too.
I'm pretty sure it was a baby doll.
Yes,
yeah, that's exactly right.
Which is good, because if that was
that would have been a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But anyways.
4-point game after the touchdown pass. By the way, Murphy to Jordan Moore. And don't discount how good Chandler Rivers was, by the way, in coverage there. Terrific throw and catch on the Duke offensive side. And now we're going to get our first look. This is the third of the 4 quarterbacks. This is Donald Tomlin, who's going to take snaps here. He's from Ridgeview High School, sophomore from Columbia, South Carolina. And, boy, he was rifling one, and almost going the other way was Kenzie Paul with it. There's Tomlin. You get a look at the walk-on, who, by the way, was 8-1 as a senior. He is a former state champion in the long jump and the 400 meters.
Whew.
So you're talking about a fairly handy athlete here. In the QB depth. And Tomlin with time. That's Bolyard, I believe, the tight end. Vance Bolyard makes the grab. Good-looking prospect at 6'5" and almost 240 from Greensboro, North Carolina.
And they're going to have to figure out depth at that tight end position, really, because behind Jeremiah Hasley, they don't have a lot of guys who have really proven much at the college ranks. And, Jake Taylor played a little bit last year in 6 games, only 1 reception. He's not going today, but I think they're going to have to have someone either step up or join the team. Now, it's not going to be a heavy 12 personnel double tight end type team.
Sure.
What Coach Brewer said to you, he said if we're going a lot of 12, 13 personnel, you got to check my pulse.
Yeah, something's going on.
But
11 and 10 is the world they live in.
Exactly. But when Duke's teams have been good, whether it's Dalmolin or Noah Gray before that, like they have leaned on their tight ends in that as a receiving threat.
Yeah.
Offensively.
Well, I think the other part about this is that position has been good for Duke for a while, regardless of administrations.
Yes.
Noah Gray's with Kansas City in the NFL. Nicky Dalmolin played a long time here. 100 years ago, they had Ben Watson here for a couple of years before he transferred to Georgia. So at the end of the day, just get in line here because it's going to be a productive point of the offense, regardless of what the platforms are, right?
And think about a tight end, right? If you are a receiving tight end and you want to go into an offense that throws the ball a lot, check out Duke. Because they're going to be throwing the ball 50 times a game with this offense. And, if you can block well enough and you can get out and make some separation on plays, you got a spot.
So we get our first look. Cade Reynolson is going to punt here again. Young man from Australia who transfers to the program. Last stop was Somerset Community College in Kentucky. I'm fascinated by the guys from Australia who come to punt in the United States out of the Pro Kick program. And Reynolson is another one whose dad was an Aussie Rules football player. And he was a national pole vault champion, was Cade Reynolson.
How about that?
Yeah. At one point last year, 2 years ago in the ACC, there were 5 Aussies who punted the ball in the ACC.
Yeah. Yep.
And
they're all over the NFL.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no question.
Played with punter Brad Wing with the Giants for a while out of LSU. And
yep. So Grayson Loftis coming back out now to take a possession here for the Blue Devil offense.
They always have a nice little swag to them. All the Aussie punters.
Pretty confident?
Yeah, they kind of walk like Conor McGregor and just sorry.
Manny, you got us?
You guys got me?
Yes, sir, we do. We ran the video of you jumping into the Cameron Crazies the day after you got the job here. Hers was pretty confident that endeared you to the public. You hit the free throw, which was maybe the most critical piece, right?
Absolutely the most critical piece.
How many practice shots did you do before that day? I mean, are you a regular basketball player, or was that like?
Normally, yes, but that was kind of not a thing at Penn State. So I probably shot a ball one time in the calendar year 2023. So I had to get a few off.
Yeah.
Pickup ball here is a little different at Duke. I'm sure you can get some good runs in, Coach.
No doubt.
Hey, if you had to chronicle a little bit of what you've seen here, good and bad, but you got to be pretty pleased here. I've seen a lot of stuff that we talked about yesterday on display here.
I agree. I mean, for a spring game, you want to see both sides with signs of life. Great play by your best player like Jordan Moore making that great catch on great coverage by Chandler Rivers.
Yeah.
Defense has done a really nice job, gotten some really good stops down in the red zone. Make a 53-yard field goal, even though it was after fourth down. I just want to see if he can make it. So, yeah, there's a lot to be, as always, right? There's a lot to be happy about, and there's plenty to fix as well.
Yeah, Coach, and when you're looking at kind of the way that Grayson Loftis and Maalik Murphy have just conducted their groups, right? Whether it's been 7-on-7 or with the full team scrimmage, how do you feel like the operation has been today? Because I know that probably is a little bit more important than the actual execution is always important, but then scoring points, right? How's the operation been?
They've known where to go with the ball. We've just missed a guy Grayson just missed a guy on the wheel, get a shot. We just missed a guy on the seam right before halftime. I think they're both in command. I think they both know what they're doing out on the field. And these days like this, with you guys being here, it's so important for them to perform in this type of atmosphere. I think they're both doing well.
Yeah. Coach, one of the things you said about your defense is the number one thing is going to be aggression. What is the culture you have to set early to get to guys to perform at the level of aggressive that you want?
Well, it starts with your defensive line play, which of course we're limited because they only get half the action here. But those are the guys that got to establish a new line of scrimmage. And then with linebackers plugging gaps, you put people in passive situations and you have a chance to turn people loose and get after the quarterback. It's a little bit tough, obviously right now, again, with our line situation to run the ball the way we want to run it, which means to stop the run the way we need to stop the run. But again, we're getting what we got this spring is we got the identity established. Our players understand the nuts and bolts of each side of the ball, and we'll get a chance to polish it up in August.
Manny, we talked about this yesterday, and Mark and Taylor and I were visiting before we started our show today. The way the landscape of college football is built right now, you can still add to the inventory here, right? I mean, there's still some room to find another guy or two potentially to help you before you come back to camp, I guess, in August, right?
It won't be a guy or two. It'll be more than that. Yeah, there's no question. We want to build a team to compete this year. And we've got a really good plan on who we got to go, what positions have the need. And we're excited about what we can add to this team.
We're getting a look at Grayson Loftis with your offense here. He mentioned this. He and Murphy have developed a friendship. That's got to be really encouraging to you and Coach Brewer just from a competition standpoint, I think.
It is. They help each other out. They've been really good in the meeting room. They all want the same things, right? They want to see the team win. Maalik is a great team guy. It benefits our entire team when you're selfless at the quarterback position.
Yeah, one of the areas that was a big question mark coming into this year is that tight end position. We've seen a couple catches now from Vance Boyard and from Jeremiah Hasley. How has the tight ends developed this spring for you?
Well, it's going to be a major part in our offense, pushing the ball down the field to those guys. You got to be able to block as well, but they're matchup problems. Jeremiah's had a really, really good spring. I think he's established himself as a guy that can control C-gap and can make plays down the field.
Well, we're getting to look at a little bit of the run game as well, and you got clear depth there. And I know you're excited about where the run game is going to go. We get all caught up in the formations and tempo, Manny. That's an integral piece too, I'm guessing.
The formation and the tempo, yeah, that's a way where we can try to tie around some defensive linemen. We can see we get a new batch of guys in right there. That's why it's so crucial that you got to have 8 to 10 defensive linemen that can go into a game and operate without a drop-off.
Coach, appreciate the hospitality. You guys have been great to work with, and appreciate you letting us visit with you here.
Yeah, thanks for spending your Saturday evening with us.
Absolutely. We're going to see if Grayson Loftis can punch one in here for you. There's a throw, and that got picked. Coming back up the near side.
Oh, you better score.
And Vontae Floyd One of the young guys that Coach mentioned to us yesterday, so did Jonathan Packey. Young man from Norfolk, 3 times an All-State player. Stepped right in front of that ball from Grayson Loftis.
See him at the bottom of the screen, just sits. Really good job of seeing the inside receiver that cut his drop down where the safety could play over the top. And he just, again, for a true freshman to understand the route concepts and make a break on the football. Now the only thing is you can't get tackled from behind, young man. Go score. Great job.
Spencer Jones was the intended receiver, and Vontae Floyd steps in front. Talk about a group that has built some momentum just with a coaching change, Mark.
Yeah, you know, I mean, again, you get some new head coaches in the ACC around the league. Boston College, obviously, with Bill O'Brien. Fran Brown is a big one, right? Syracuse, it's been a long time with Dino Babers, and it's a big shift. It's an entire culture change, and you know, a lot of excitement around him.
Let's go downstairs to Taylor with Maalik Murphy.
Yeah, thanks so much. Maalik, when you came to Duke, what excited you about playing under Coach Brewer's offense?
I just knew a lot about the history of the offense, you know, the high flying, a lot of throwing the ball around, vertical passing game, moving fast, a lot of passing yards. And I feel like kind of coming from the offense that I came from, it'll be good for me to kind of step away from that pro-style offense and, you know, kind of expand in my strengths of the game, and that's putting the ball downfield.
How do you feel like you've adjusted to the new system?
It's been a lot of ups and downs, honestly, because I had to – a lot of it. I'll see you in a second.
Absolutely beautiful.
It's a smart man right there.
That's a smart guy, right?
Smart guy. Hey, he had one ear on the coach.
Yeah.
Always have one ear on the coach. You can't let TV distract you from your job.
Taylor, is that the first time you've had a guy run off on you in the middle of the interview?
I want to say no, but I'm trying to think of another time.
I'll say this. I thought he gave you a really good answer.
Yeah.
Ups and downs. I mean, it's a complex system, right? And it's entirely different from what he ran in Austin.
Yeah, it's completely different offense. He mentioned, you know, the pro-style offense that he was at, you know, at Texas, just, you know, a lot more play action, a lot of handoff fakes. And this is, you know, I think more of he mentioned downfield passing. And I think that a very interesting point talking to Jonathan Brewer the other day was once they started implementing the RPO system, Maalik Murphy felt more at home. And I think he was used to some of that RPO play action stuff when he was at Texas. And that's when he started to feel a little bit more comfortable. So I think it'll be interesting, right? Because he mentioned it's been ups and downs, right? Learning the new offense is crazy. It's different. It's a whole lot. But if he can find his niche of what really is his comfort zone, the coordinators can play off of that and make him feel comfortable in games.
So we're getting a look at Murphy, who bailed on Taylor to go back and take a rep, which, you know, in the big picture is probably the right move.
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, you don't like number 6. Where are you?
Yeah.
That's the worst feeling.
All right.
In football.
We were talking about depth at wide receiver.
Yeah.
So however this goes, right? And the point I wanted to make when you were talking about this competition earlier, it's my buddy Mark Packer's theory. If I'm Manny Diaz, I know what Pack's saying tonight if he's watching this spring game. If I'm Manny Diaz, I'm not telling anybody anything. And I may start one guy the first game and another guy I may go the Jim Harbaugh route from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Where you go 2 quarterbacks, I think, I think the interesting thing is that they are not enough different, I think, to warrant a 2-quarterback system.
Okay.
I think that they are similar enough where they both are pocket passers. They're not all running all over the place, so they don't complement each other. Kind of maybe be more of the same.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision that Manny Diaz and his offensive staff have to make. 2-minute warning in Durham. Final stretches at Wallace Wade Stadium of this Duke spring game. Don't forget ACC baseball coming up top of the hour. We'll send you the Alex Rodriguez Park at Marklight Stadium for Miami and Louisville. But Maalik Murphy's first public display as a Duke Blue Devil, pretty impressed, Mark.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. You know, and he started settling in as practice or the game, right, went along, and he kind of found his rhythm. Once he was able to plant that back foot and deliver some strikes down over the middle of the field, then he was able to hit a big ball towards the corner of the end zone for a touchdown to Jordan Moore. And you kind of see what both quarterbacks did today, right? as comparable, as uncomparable as this day could have been, right? You see those numbers, and I think that hasn't been one guy who has been a clear, hey, this guy is really, really that much better. So competition continues.
Look at this throw here. This is Jeremiah Hazley. I think this is like almost a submarine pitch.
Yeah, a sidearm sling.
Holy smokes. Here's Murphy. He had pressure in his face. He makes a throw there on the second down play to the far side. Look at this. All from ground level.
Yum. Little arm angle.
And he had a little pepper on this.
He's a big guy. He's got strong ability to throw. And I think that's one of the things you talk about big quarterbacks and why that's important. It's because they can make big throw out of compromised positions.
He picked up a drop ball and then threw a strike to Moore, but incomplete and out of bounds against Terry Moore.
Yeah, and it wasn't a 10-yard downfield strike. I mean, he picked that ball up and whipped it with his wrist 50 yards downfield to the opposite sideline, right?
Yeah.
That's what that strength can do, getting the ball out, you know.
I don't know that Taylor saw the sidearm throw from Murphy. That might qualify him as a Cubs farmhand to turn the double play.
For sidearmers, you know. Different arm slots out of the bullpen, bring them on.
Yeah, right.
What a play there by Terry Moore, though.
Oh, yeah.
That ball off. Good concentration.
No kidding. So here is Murphy. This is a fourth down play with 70 seconds to go. The defense has a 10-point lead. You know, back in the day, I don't know if you're familiar with this, used to be in the 70s and 80s, some schools, the winners would get steak, the losers would get beans and franks.
Do you think I'm familiar with anything from the 70s?
No, I know you're not.
No.
I just said that. I don't know if at BC back in your day, if the winners got steak and the losers got, beans and franks.
Yeah, but I mean, what would be comparable, right? You get a nice time going out to the party because you're a winning team, or you go out to the party after the spring game as the loser.
Have to pay.
You know, so a lot less of frank and beans.
And in today's world, I'm not sure how I would qualify the spring game winning and losing, right?
Hey, I don't know. All I know is that the biggest party of the year was always after the spring game.
Yeah,
so you finished up practice.
Yep.
And you go out and you celebrate with your teammates. But I think they did away with a lot of the hey, if the Saints, right? They're giving people treats for taking players out.
Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
We used to get honey baked hams.
How about this? A little sidearm action there.
We used to get honey baked hams for going ham on defense.
How about that?
Hard as a,
Yeah, I got you.
Yep. So we got honey baked hams, but then they stopped doing that because,
I understand. Murphy with a shot to Harvey there into plus territory in the final minute. And with the offensive line in there, that's VJ Anthony.
Ooh.
And I think Anthony pulled his helmet off. I think he got a slap around the head and a timeout taken by the offense with 48 seconds left. Another look here, Mark.
Just big with speed and a dip. Looks like a poked in the eye, possibly.
Yep. VJ Anthony's a young guy who now finds his way to his junior campaign here in Durham. He had 2 sacks, 17 tackles a year ago.
And he was one of the, he was a guy who started as a true freshman here too, right?
Yep.
And not a lot of guys in that Elko defense were starting as true freshmen.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because you got Terry Moore from Little Washington, Chandler Rivers, and VJ Anthony are all true juniors.
Yes.
Wesley Williams is in that class. He was a freshman that year, but he redshirted.
Yeah.
So the recruiting of the Mike Elko administration on defense, there's still some clear guys in that element. I also think so too that we're talked about depth here. We mentioned Jaquez Moore at running back. The competition at quarterback's been clearly outlined. The depth at wide receiver, there's some real power there, but how much depth is there?
Yeah, I think that's the question. There's a lot of guys, there's a lot of bodies, but how many of them are going to be productive, right?
Yep.
And how many of them are going to be capable of competing at the ACC level? And those are things that will be determined, and we'll find out. And sometimes it comes down to, hey man, a guy got injured, you got to step up, and a guy makes a big name for himself. So those are things that we will find out as we get closer to fall starting. But they do have the bodies there, and they have shown some flashes today as well.
Yep. Third down play underneath the stick, and the catch is made. That's Shamir Hagans, the junior from Philadelphia. And Duke's going to hustle up to the line here on a 4th down play. 4th and about 7. And here's the snap to Murphy. Quick throw on the inside, Pankow the catch. And I think they're going to give him a healthy spot to the 37.
Good delivery.
Defensive end, yep. So here goes Murphy, and 11 seconds left to go. Going to wheel and shoot one to the far side. Boy, what a nice catch. Harvey stepping out of bounds at the 31. And 5 seconds left.
Great throw.
Yep.
Deep out route, whips it across the field. That's not a throw that is easy for a quarterback to make from the opposite hash. Great ball.
Hazley comes in, or comes out. Bolliard came in. And it looked for a moment like Polino was going to come kick a field goal, and now he is. Remember, he hit from 53, uncontested from 53, and this is going to be, I think, right about, that's going to be 48. Just shy of 50. And what will be the final play of this spring game? So Todd Polino, who's hit already 3 field goals in this game. And right at 49 yards to. And there's the kick. And Polino will drive that through. And is that the final play? I think it is, yep. So Manny Diaz gets a full look here. Defense wins it 24-16.
Yeah, defense played well. They got some pressure on the quarterbacks. You saw that was apparent. You saw VJ Anthony get in there. You saw Michael Reese get in there, Wesley Williams. Defensive backs, the competition in the one-on-ones carried over to the actual scrimmage and the practice. The competition in the quarterback room is continuing. The tight end showed out.
Yep.
The offensive line is there, kind of, but they got to bring in some more guys. So a lot of work for this Duke team before we hit fall, but a good start here this spring.
Our thanks to Manny Diaz for allowing us to be part of his blue and white spring game here tonight in Durham. The Blue Devils open the season on Friday night, August the 30th, when Elon visits Wallace Wade Stadium. Stay tuned. Coming up, ACC baseball next. Danny Wexelman, Devin Travis have Game 2 of the Louisville-Miami series. Great to be with Mark Herslich, Taylor McGregor. Thanks to our producer, Stephen Kim, our director, Chad Lampman, and everybody here at Duke for helping us with the blue and white game here tonight as the defense wins by a final of 24-16. It also concludes the 2024 ACC spring football schedule. For Mark Herslich and Taylor McGregor, West Durham from Wallace Wade Stadium. Good night. Here come the Cards and Canes from Mark Light.